The Delaware Riverside Conservancy, or DRC, is a non-profit organization comprised of people and companies who live, work, and play on or near the Delaware River, or who are interested and concerned about the welfare of this pristine waterway. We would like to take this opportunity to inform the general public that the last 3 floods were not the result of or the cumulative effect of the perfect storm. All 3 floods were in fact man-made. It should be noted that the facts and figures being presented are from the THARP report, which can be found on our website, and the Delaware River Masters charts. Also, please keep in mind that the information in this presentation is known and has been known from day one by the Delaware River Basin Commission, or DRBC. With this in mind, we ask ourselves, will the Delaware River flood again? You bet it will if we don't get the underlying causes under control. Since 1955, no major floods occurred until August 2004. Then we experienced 3 major floods within a 21-month period. Why, you ask? What's changed? One major difference is upstream reservoirs already are 100% filled and are overflowing. Thus, they end up spilling and releasing billions of gallons into an already swollen river, adding feet, not inches, to the river's crest. Why do reservoirs have to be at or above 100% capacity? Well, if you listen to the Delaware River Basin Commission, they'll tell you it's to supply water to New York City, and that can't be compromised. New York City has a mandated right to take 800 million gallons of water from the Delaware via 3 main reservoirs. But as you can see by this chart, they have never required this amount. As a matter of fact, in 2006, they only took about half of the 800 million gallons. The original compact agreement of 1954 stated that they should not bank the water. In other words, use what you need up to 800 million gallons and send the rest downstream. Contrary to that agreement, banking began in 1983 with notable increases in 1988, 1999, the Compact of 1961, which designated the Delaware River Basin Commission to manage the reservoirs, was signed by the respective governors of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Delaware. The 3rd paragraph of this document clearly stated that the Commission will provide effective flood damage reduction. The Delaware River Basin Commission has ignored both compacts since 2001 by keeping the reservoirs at or above 100% capacity, thus banking the water, without providing effective flood damage reduction. Instead, they chose to release billions of additional gallons into a river that was already swollen, causing death and millions of dollars worth of destruction. 9 people died as the result of these 3 man-made floods. The Delaware River Basin Commission stated that we were in a drought before we were flooded. That's why the reservoirs were full. As you can plainly see, every month up until the flood, all the reservoirs were billions of gallons above drought warning level. During the September 2004 flood, the Delaware River Basin Commission allowed the Papacon, Cannonsville, and Neversink reservoirs to spill and release over 52 billion gallons of water. This figure does not include PP&L's Lake Wallenpaupack. In the April 2005 flood, the Delaware River Basin Commission released and spilled almost 80 billion gallons, again not including Lake Wallenpaupack's release. During the June 2006 flood, the Delaware River Basin Commission outdid themselves and released over 100 billion gallons of water. This figure did include Lake Wallenpaupack's flow release. Imagine 100 billion gallons of water. That is the equivalent of emptying Lake Wallenpaupack's contents into a river that is already swollen and rising. The DRBC stated that while they may have released some water, it only amounted to inches downstream. Excuse me from laughing, but preposterous statements do that to me. This example might give you a better understanding of what 100 billion gallons equate to by comparing normal readings at Belvedere converted to river equivalents. Check the level for Wednesday, June 28th. The equivalents of 17.9 additional rivers were released on top of the normal Delaware River flow. So the total flow for the 7 days of the June 2006 flood? 109.4 billion gallons of water. That's the equivalent of dumping the Niagara Falls output into the Delaware River for 37 hours. Adding insult to injury, the DRBC has the ability to divert water to the Hudson River and its reservoirs, but chose not to divert one drop. Why? As it turns out, they're selling water to other entities. Interesting, isn't it? It appears that judgments are always clouded by money. Arrogance and indifference to the pain, suffering, and death to the people downstream for the sake of monetary profits is absolutely appalling. The Delaware River Basin Commission has stated that every time there is a heavy rainfall, the floodplain will flood. I think the exact words were, "Well, floodplains flood." This statement is absolutely false. If that statement was true, why didn't the Delaware flood in October of 2005? This was the second highest recorded amount of rainfall since 1941, when record-keeping was initiated. Fact is, October 2005 recorded higher precipitation than any of the 3 flood months. So why didn't the Delaware River flood in October 2005? I'll tell you why. The reservoirs were below 80% capacity and were able to retain the additional runoff north of them. In addition to the mismanagement of the reservoirs, it has also recently come to light that dam inspections have been falsified. This is just another example of indifference for the safety of the people living downstream on the Delaware River. Who are these people? Well, they're the same people who let New York City take 800 million gallons of water a day from the Delaware, and requested not to bank it. Oh, and by the way, they don't flood us either. New York City and the DRBC responded by taking the water and thumbing their noses at the respective governors and their constituents. The Interim Spill Mitigation Program, effective September 2006, was highly touted by the New York City DEP and the Delaware River Basin Commission as being very successful because they released 128 billion gallons over a 6-month period. Remember that they released and spilled over 100 billion gallons in 1 week during the flood, and stated that it only amounted to inches of increased water levels. They even sent representatives to a variety of municipalities to proclaim the success of the ISMP. What they failed to mention was that they did not take rainfall or snowmelt into their calculations. So in fact, the reservoirs actually increased, not decreased, during that 6-month period. Just one more example of the Delaware River Basin Commission misleading the general public. The Delaware River Basin Commission will unveil another management proposal soon, and will vote in September to make it permanent. It was already stated that the new plan will not allow for reservoir voids. The Delaware Riverside Conservancy is extremely concerned about the potential future flooding due to the lack of reservoir voids, and the fact that the plan will not provide provisions to mandated effective flood damage reduction, as stated in the 1961 Compact. All municipalities, large and small, need to be aware of the consequences that a plan without reservoir void provisions has on their future. No matter how much flood insurance you have, it never covers all the expenses incurred. Doesn't it make sense that prevention is worth much more than an ounce of cure? What can you do? First, join the Delaware Riverside Conservancy. Second, contact your state legislator and tell them you want the reservoir levels at 80%. Third, contact your U.S. federal legislators. Fourth, contact the governor. Fifth, inform your freeholders and municipal governing bodies. Sixth, write your local paper, the New York Times, and the Associated Press about your concerns. Seventh, contact TV and radio programs and ask what they're doing to help. And last but not least, sign our petition. On behalf of the DRC, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to learn the truth. Keep in mind that this is not the end, just the beginning of our fight.